LBC Travel.
With Go-To Meeting. Cut your commute and catch up with your family.
This is LBC, leading Britain's conversation. With Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850. Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
Morning, just 9:06 on Friday the 13th of March. Coming up later in this hour, a deputy head teacher in trouble for calling a girl with visual problems who has to wear a patch pirate and pirate girl. What was he thinking? And the fallout after the fight between those two energy politicians. One is a Minister of State, others the shadow, whether Ed Miliband's plan that would force companies to lower prices by law, whether it would get your vote. More on that later in the hour.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
I've mentioned a couple of times we're going to be joined by one of Britain's biggest banking bosses, and we have. His name is Ross McEwan. He's Chief Executive of RBS, Royal Bank of Scotland. He came to see us around 8 months ago and took a number of calls, and he comes in again. Jonathan, you're going to be the first caller. Before I put you on air to Ross McEwan, Mr. McEwan, can I just ask you, when you came in 8 months ago, you made it absolutely plain. This was not going to be an overnight success story. There were tough times ahead. It was going to be gruelling, and you had to carry your staff with you and work damned hard. Getting there?
We're getting there. The results from last year were much better. Underlying results were much better. 2 of our 3 businesses are going very well, our retail bank and also our mid-market commercial. We're restructuring our large end of town, the big corporate end, and we'll get that right because we're really good at that space, but just too many operations offshore that weren't producing the goods for us. So getting there. It's been a tough year and another one coming up, but
more on that in a minute.
Yeah.
Now, I deliberately didn't use the tag, which I sense is finally being dropped by journalists in the media, troubled bank RBS. I have to refer to it now because do you think we are out of that now? And people just say the RBS rather than that other bit.
Yeah, look, I think we're getting there, and I think our customers in general, whilst we haven't got everything right, the customers are starting to see this bank emerging again. But 15 will be another tough year for our people. We've got still a lot of conduct and litigation issues to get over this year. We'll get through those as quickly as we possibly can, but our businesses are good. We're getting better with customers. Not there yet, by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
But it's starting to show some signs.
And the biggest challenge for 2015, would you say?
Look, just concentration on good business with customers. That's got to be our focus. Whilst we sort out other issues, let's just focus on the customers. That's the future for this bank.
You might be about to speak to some of them, Mr. McEwan. Put on those headphones and off we go. Jonathan's in Esher. You're through. Go ahead, Jonathan. Good morning.
Morning, Nick. Morning, Ross. I was wondering, over the last few years, RBS, along with, I think, all the other major high street banks, have been caught in several things, fixing LIBOR rates, selling derivatives to small and medium-sized enterprises through an interest business rate hedge. It now appears that you're selling embedded derivatives in fixed-rate loans. You fix the prices of gold. You colluded to fix the price of the exchange rates. And on all of those activities, the banks made vast profits, which you paid out bonuses. On the back of the fact that a lot of these practices have been proven to be fraudulent, how many of your bankers have returned their bonuses? How many of them were held accountable? How many people have been reported to the police for their fraudulent activities? Because if I went in Esher High Street this afternoon and robbed a bank, I'd get 25 years.
Right.
But if a bank robs me, they get a bonus.
All right, stay on the line, Mr. McEwan.
Yeah, Jonathan, a good question. It's one of the things that's plagued this industry with all of these issues. You've talked about LIBOR, FX, derivatives, the whole nine yards. Of all banks, I think we've been the one that's held people accountable for these actions. We've, for example, using just the foreign exchange issue that's going through banking at the moment, we've got a number of people who are on suspension. We terminated 3 the other day. We've got bonuses held back until we've done full investigation. And where people are found to be accountable, they lose those bonuses, and now we can claw back as well. But I think we've got to be very careful. We are building a bank to go forward. We don't want to penalise those people who had nothing to do with those issues and just want to do a good job every day. But we do need to hold people accountable. And of all banks, I think RBS has shown it's doing so.
If we just come to one of the key points of Jonathan's question, though, how many of your colleagues have paid back their bonuses or had bonuses denied, or where are we with the bonuses? It's a word that it's a red rag to so many people out there, Mr. McEwan.
And I understand it, particularly while we're not making profits. Bonuses are, in people's mind, bad things for bankers. And the issue around bonuses, I just need to make sure I can pay people enough to keep them doing great jobs to save this bank, to get it back so we can get the money back to our taxpayers. And that's the issue. I mean, I have to be somewhat pragmatic about it.
And I hold you to that number, though, Mr. McEwan. Are there a number of people who are denied bonuses or are paid bonuses?
No, there are. And we've got, for example, right now...
I know you yourself are not taking a bonus currently, are you?
Look, I've said...
Which I think if you're the boss, you've got to be seen to do that, Mr. McEwan.
Well, but the issue for me is let's just take the distraction of bonuses away so that we can get on and build a good bank. Because one of the things that annoys the public most is that we're still making losses. And they bailed us out and we're still making losses. So my objective is to get this bank making profits so that the government can sell it and get it in good shape to do so. And we're certainly on our way. We've got numbers. I haven't got those numbers in my mind, to be honest, but we have got numbers of people who've got money held back today while we do the investigations.
All right.
And again, we've just got to be fair on our own people because, I've got to make sure our people are motivated that they want to be part of the recovery of this bank.
You say the government can sell it. Any idea when?
No, it's in their hands. It's been interesting that the Chancellor has said just recently that, if they get back into government, they'll be wanting to press on with selling it.
So in the lifetime of the next government?
Oh, I think so. And early on, I would suspect as well.
First half?
But my job is to make this a really good bank so that it's in good shape for them to sell. But it'll be a long process to sell it. It's 45 billion of capital. Leonard, that's a lot of money to actually take out of a market.
Quick response from you, Jonathan. Keep it brief if you would, because I've got a lot of people to get through to Mr. McEwan. Jonathan, quick reaction.
Thank you. You say that, building your bank is about, looking after your customers. So tell me how you've looked after your customers who have had their businesses bankrupted because of independent business rate hedges, have lost their homes, in some cases people have committed suicide. People who have put everything on the line have been undermined by dishonest practice by the bank and are now, through your redress schemes, denied consequential loss or compensation.
Well, first off, those schemes you're talking about are fully in place. We have been working with the FCA, the regulator, to actually make sure that they're proper, legitimate schemes, that customers get a good opportunity to put their case and it answered properly. We're going through those. We're keen to get through. Well, we've finished most of those cases, and if there are things that still come out of that, we'll address them. But we also need to make sure that we have got an eye on the future as well as looking after the past as we move this bank forward.
Thank you, Jonathan. Other calls. Raj is in Stanmore. You're through to Mr. McEwan. Go ahead, Raj.
Nick, Mr. McEwan, thanks for taking my call. I'll try to be as brief as possible. Mr. McEwan, I've been in account with you guys since 1983. 1997, I started my own business up. I had support from your business managers for the for the first 3 to 4 years. Thereafter, no contact, managers kept on changing, etc. We went into hardcore borrowing because of the recession. Now, instead of having managers in place helping businesses to revive, etc., we were put into a specialised unit. Luckily, we came out of it, but because we had excellent interest rates, the way the bank viewed it was, effectively, they didn't want to, we were paying no interest, so they wanted our borrowing to get rid of our borrowing, basically.
I've got to move you to your question, Raj, if I can. So what would your question be?
Well, basically, we have no manager support. You guys are saying you want to get back on to be a fairer bank. You guys need to go back to traditional banking. I'd like my case looked at. But you guys, your managers are not trained properly to deal with customers, especially businesses. There is no support out there from you guys.
I think you make a very good point, Raj, on getting back to traditional business, and we're doing so. I mean, we've got a major program.
In what way?
Major program now, getting back to training all our relationship managers on exactly what Raj was talking about, the basics of banking, when we should and shouldn't be actually giving money, how we look after customers, and in Raj's case, when they do have some difficulties in their businesses. We're doing a major program now in our commercial bank on exactly that issue, getting back to the basics. And so while many things have changed in banking, particularly around technology, the basics I don't think have changed at all. So I do take his point.
Quick response from you, Raj.
Well, I would welcome you if one of your team or yourself would give me a call, and I'll give you my background, and then you can...
All right.
Can we grab his
we'll do it. Raj, stay on the line. One of my team will take your number, and we'll pass it on to one of Mr. McEwan's team to give you a call. Thanks for that, Raj. There's a related email coming, actually, Mr. McEwan. This comes from Davina in Fulham. The banking business has lost its charm. The relationship between manager and their clients has gone. No one knows their bank manager. It's all online. without seeing the whites of your clients' eyes, how can you actually assess them for mortgages or for business loans? She's angry about this, Mr. McEwan.
Yeah, no, look, it's interesting as banking is changing. I mean, more and more people are using technology. That's the desire of customers, to use technology. And to give you an example, our footprint and the people...
Is it the desire, or are they being pushed into doing it?
No, I think it's. I'll give you some interesting stats. Less and less people are coming into our branch network, about 10% reduction a year. But over the last 4 years, there's been 1,000+% increase in the usage of the mobile phone. And every month now it's growing by about 17 to 18% usage. That's customers actually using it, changing their behaviours. But there is a big place for relationship banking for customers to see face-to-face with customers, particularly around big purchases, mortgages, businesses. And that's why we've been building our mortgage team from 325 18 months ago to 525 people now that look face-to-face with customers. And on the phone, we've gone from 80 to 200. So we're very much open for business and being able to face customers face-to-face.
So if we go back to Davina, you're trying to go back to that relationship model where a manager actually knows his or her clients better than...
As best we can in a branch network, but also from a business banking perspective, of a relationship manager with a portfolio of customers that they look after.
What did you learn from Australia about this? Because that was where you really made your name in this. You're a New Zealander by birth, but you made your name in Oz, it's fair to say. What did you learn from there?
You've got to balance these things off. There are a number of customers that just want to use the technology to do everything. So you've got to make sure that you've got good technology with good smarts that can make decisions within behalf of the customer online, mobile and the likes. And there are some customers that still want that interaction face-to-face, usually for bigger things. You know, buying a house is a big thing. Last year, I mean, we did 35,000 first home buyers, which was up 50-odd% on the year prior. Those people need somebody to talk to them about. That's a big purchase for them. So you need that interaction, but on some of the smaller things, a lot of it is going online and customers are demanding it.
Let's go to other calls. Paul's in Reading. You're through to Mr. McEwan. Go ahead, Paul.
Good morning. I'd just like to ask you, why do you think it is that Spanish banks seem to be able to make a success out of buying and running British banks, despite the fact that they suffered such a terrible economic crash in their home country, yet we don't seem to be able to make a success of running ours? Santander seems to be doing okay. Sabadell now making an offer for TSB.
They are, yep.
So what are they doing right that we're doing wrong?
Well, I think we got ourselves very distracted with growth for about 2 decades instead of thinking customers and getting back to the basics of banking. And
so they're better at customer banking in Spain?
I think they've just got back to the basics faster than we have, and we need to get back to the basics and concentrate on the customer. This is our mantra. Keep it very simple. Have a very strong bank and focus on customers is where we're at. And I think you'll find this bank in the next couple of years will be a very good bank again.
So without being too tabloid-esque then, Mr. McEwan, the old RBS was just hooked on growth?
I think it was. I mean, you look at it...
And the customers can go hang, effectively.
Well, it wanted to be a big bank, and it became one. It became the biggest bank in the world, and that's what we're quietly unwinding now to get back to the UK, where our fantastic bank is.
I mean, Paul makes a very good point, and we were talking about this earlier in the show. TSB is Britain's 7th biggest bank, as you'll be aware, Ross McEwan, announcing a shock $1.7 billion offer, it says here, from Spain's Banco Sabadell. How shocked were you?
No, I think if other parties see real value in these banks, good on them for having a go.
Is there value in the TSB for us?
I don't know. I haven't analysed the TSB. I'm looking at my own business at the moment, creating value for our own shareholders.
Would you be nervous if another Spanish bank came in and picked up Britain's 7th biggest bank? How would you react?
Look, if they saw value in it and it was good for customers and the regulators thought that was a good thing, I'd let it happen. But my job is to get this into a great shape so that actually the owners of this, the government and taxpayers,
and me,
can actually sell it. Yes, and you.
And my listeners.
You can sell and get your money back.
Oh, happy days. Monica's in Rochester. Go ahead, Monica. You're through to Ross McEwan.
Good morning, Ross. Good morning, Nick.
Hello.
I just wanted to know, 2012, the FCA fined, obviously, RBS for failure to comply with complaints regulations. I just wondered what you have done since and whether the FCA have actually updated the 50%, obviously the question as to whether you've improved for the 50% lack of handling of complaints since then.
Yeah, no, good question. We did have difficulties, Monica, in 2012 with our complaints handling. We're getting much, much better at it. One of the things we're driving very hard at is to have 80% of our customer complaints dealt with at the point the customer makes that complaint, be that over the phone, in our branch, on an email. The person who picks it up deals with the issue at 80% of the time. We're not quite there yet, but we're certainly in parts of the business getting there. Long way to go. I think the complaints is a good indication of how vibrant your business is, and right now we've still got too many complaints coming in and we're not dealing with them well enough today. Much better than we were a year ago, and we've got a lot of work to do, but I'm happy with the progress. Never happy to have complaints because it says we're just not dealing with customers well enough.
Quick response from you, Monica.
Yeah, I've had a complaint going with RBS and NatWest for 7 years now. All the executive complaints team do is send final resolution letters out, and then they basically say that they will not ever speak about the situation again.
Well, I'm going to speak about it now without in any way being rude. It's very difficult for Ross McEwan to respond. It's his first he's had sight. But again, I'd ask you to give, if you're prepared to give your name to one of my colleagues. We'll pass it on to one of Ross McEwan's team, and let's take it from there. I would imagine 7 years, it probably does need a resolution. But let's just get a few more details before we get too deep into that. Emails, if I can, Ross McEwan. This comes from Henrietta in Canary Wharf. How many more jobs will have to go at the investment bank to make it profitable? 14,000 went last week.
Well, we haven't put a number out on the jobs that will go. First off, we have that consultation and conversation.
Is she
with our
right?
staff.
14,000 went last week. Is that
No, that's not right. That was a number that people have speculated will go from our corporate institutional bank over a number of years. I've said it will be significant. I've been quite open and honest and said it's significant, but the number we don't have and haven't put out.
So that's pure speculation. 14,000.
And because we've got a lot of consultation around the world with our staff, and some of these jobs will go with the businesses as we sell them as well. We've just sold a part of our commercial banking book in the US, and 170 jobs plus 3 sites is going with that business. The new owners want the people, which is fantastic. So I look at it will be significant, and I don't underestimate what a big change that is for our people that we're having to manage.
How big is the staff at the moment, Mr. McEwan?
About 18,000.
About 18,000.
18,000.
And I'm being told that figure was actually printed. Again, you didn't say it, but it was speculated and printed that the figure could be around 14,000.
Look, it was speculated. It will be a large number.
Would it be as many? Could it be as big? Gee whiz, that's not going to leave you with many.
No, this business will be considerably smaller. It will be based in the UK and in Western Europe. We won't be operating out of Asia or the US or other parts. Yeah. Those parts of the business are far more difficult for us and create, I think, risk for us that we just don't want to live with today. We've got to be a simpler bank based predominantly in the UK and Western Europe, good for customers.
And so when will the number emerge?
It'll emerge over the next 2 or 3 years as we change that business.
Oh, I see. It's not going to come down in the next few months.
No.
It's an ongoing process.
No. Some of these businesses may take some time to actually sell or divest of.
Harry's in Herne Hill. You're through to Ross McEwan. Go ahead, Harry.
Hello there. 2 little points. Credit card charges. Interest rates are so low, and yet credit cards are still being stung. And yet we've rescued the banks, and yet we're still being, unfortunately, the phrase I like to use is ripped off. And the other thing is, your app on your phones and your phoning in and using the automated service, and it says your balance is X, but your available balance is 0 because you've got a direct debit coming out, but you don't know how much you should be paying. And I've got to speak to somebody, physically speak to somebody, for them to tell me how much I've got to go and pay in to make sure that transaction's done, that transaction's taken out my account. The information on...
What's your... I'm sorry, Harry, what's your question? I've only got 5 more minutes with Ross McEwan.
The question is, why is it that the software... Why can't I look at my statement and find out whether I'm in the red and how much I'm in the red? Because available balance always shows the 0.
Yeah, Harry, that issue is, if we didn't show it as 0, then you'd be having an issue with me around, you didn't let me know I had other things coming out of my account. So it's a wee bit of, how do we help you here? You can go on, the online gives you a lot of activity in there. We're building more and more online with your mobile. That will continue to increase as customers want it, and we can give you more facilitation. All we're trying to do is make sure that you know that there's not much money left given you've got some direct debits coming out. So look, let's see if we can't pick that up as well, get somebody to take you through how that works, and see if we can help you with it.
Join the list. Might I ask you a question, Ross McEwan? Thank you. You've nodded. Yeah.
I've nodded. Was that a yes?
How safe is free banking in Britain?
Look, I don't think any bank's going to be charging around putting charges on their own, because there's no first mover advantage in this. But I've never said, I just don't think there is such a thing as free banking or free anything in this world.
Why don't we just get real, as they do elsewhere in the world, and just there is a payment and we all know it, rather than trying to fold it into other charges or whatever it might be.
I think the issue, and one of the other senior executives said this the other day, the first that does that...
This was the boss of Barclays, I think, wasn't it?
And he's absolutely right. The first that does it loses a lot of customers, and then everybody follows in later on. So I think we've just got to be very transparent with customers about what the real charges on accounts are, and that's why we've gone to this one-page A4 that I can use without my glasses that says what do I get charged for. I think we've got to be much more transparent in all of these activities.
So it's safer for a little longer.
I think it's safe for a little longer.
All right. Okay, thank you for that. We go to, is it Pius in Chingford? Am I pronouncing that correctly? Pius or Pius?
Yeah, it's Pius.
Pius. You're through to Ross McEwan, Pius. Go ahead.
Good morning to both of you. Ross, I asked this question previously, and that is in connection with historic bad behaviour of banks, and especially in view of the recent wholesale tax evasion discovered by RBS, by HSBC, I beg your pardon.
Right.
And
it's a terribly bad line, Pius. Please don't be... I'm going to have to ask you just to say your question fairly briefly, and I'm actually going to have to say it for the listeners. The line is such poor quality. What is your question, Pius? Sorry, sir.
My question is whether does he think that it's about time that the banker faces the full weight of the law?
Okay. Do you think it's about time? I think actually, Ross McEwan, you've addressed this. Do you think it's about time bankers face the full weight of the law? Well, you could argue that actually some of them are, and there are ongoing investigations, and some of, not necessarily your colleagues, but many bankers are currently under arrest. So, Mr. McEwan.
I think bankers are starting to be held accountable, so they should be for very poor behaviour. And Pius is right. The bad behaviour is actually creating very bad lack of trust in this banking industry, and that's what we're trying to rebuild. And one of the things for me is why I keep talking about making this a much simpler bank, so we know what's going on, making it a stronger bank, so we don't have to go back to the public for any more money. And just fairer banking, we've got to get much simpler than we have been.
What's your level of confidence at 9:28 on Friday the 13th of March that all the scandals and problems and crises and illegality are behind us?
They're not. I'm terribly sorry to tell you that, but I think we've got a number of issues. You're seeing that with private banking. It's been really slow to actually get in with what the spirit of the law is, as opposed to what the law says. There's still some of those issues, but I think the big ones are predominantly behind us. We've just got to be better for customers, and that's what RBS and NatWest are working through, is how do we just make this a fairer bank for our customers, because it starts and finishes with customers.
But there's not another LIBOR or a PPI waiting to drop.
Not that I'm aware, but can I give you a guarantee? No, I can't. But we're dealing with a lot, and I've got a lot to deal with this year that we'd like to get out of the way as quickly as we possibly can.
Pat's in Clapham. You're through to Ross McEwan. Go ahead, Pat.
Hi, Ross. You just stated that the customer comes first in your estimation. However, you've taken all the staff out of the system. You claim that internet banking is wanted by the customers. They've been forced into it because you've taken all the people out of the system. Who wants to stand in a bank for like an hour waiting for the one till that's open? Just like the supermarkets who claim that self-checkout is the way ahead. If you close all the checkouts and give it an option of one that's self-checkout, obviously they're going to go for it. You cannot claim that people are the number one thing. Profit is the number one thing for you banks. That's all you care about, nothing else.
Pat, I would have said that 10 years ago that profit was the big thing. I'm certainly sorry. I don't think that is. I think from our banking perspective, we've got a lot more to do. I understand that as we reform this bank and get it back to being a great bank again. But having customers happy with what we're doing and having fair banking, I think, is what we're about. Now, banking is changing. I mean, just as it did in the record industry and everywhere else. And if we don't make those modifications to our bank, we're the ones that actually don't survive. But, we are focusing very heavily. We've got fantastic staff at the front of our business. In many parts, we're growing that, as I've talked about on the program. We've got more and more mortgage lenders, both on the phones and face-to-face with customers. So we are growing where customers need us. But there is the issue of, how many branches do I have? How many staff do I have as the numbers decline?
Pat, a quick response, because we're down to the last minute or so.
I still don't buy it. You know, if you get rid of staff and you give people no alternatives, plus the fact when you're dealing with people face to face, as one caller said earlier, you get the whites of their eyes, you see what they're up to, you fill in a form online, and you get into the trouble that you got in 1997.
Well, let's see, Mr. McEwan.
Yeah, Pat, look, I take your point. I started my banking time in branch banking, so I love branches.
Well, you went to the other side of the glass where you literally handed out the cash.
No, you wouldn't let me near that. I'd probably mess up the till. That's where I started, and I love branch banking, but you have to be relevant for customers, and it's changing. We've also connected with the post office. 11,500 post office sites now take money in and out on behalf of RBS, which in small communities is fantastic because we've actually got more facilitation for customers. We've got more of the little mobile vans in rural England, Wales and Scotland than we've ever had getting to little communities to do exactly what Pat's talking about as face-to-face. It's that balance.
Final email here from Mohammed in southwest London. I take from some of your answers that RBS is coming out of all global operations. Surely that should not be the position of a bank in this day and age.
I think that's an interesting one, Mohammed. My view is that you're going to see a lot more regional banks rather than global banks because it's just so complex operating in lots and lots of countries around the world. And I think you're seeing actually
like
more
a sort of a Southern England bank? Or
No, for England and, for example, for us, we'll be in Europe.
I see.
That'll be the territory. And we will connect them with other banks around the world on behalf of our customers.
But this thirst for global domination, Asia, the US, Australia, that's gone, you say?
I think there'll be very, very few banks that will be able to do that safely over the long term. And we've said we want to be a great UK bank and we want to be in Western Europe for our large corporate customers. And I think if we get that right, this will be a fantastic bank for our shareholders, which is all of the public that are listening today.
Fantastic for the shareholders. Final question from me. A couple of weeks ago, I'm quoting you hopefully correctly, you said, quotes, "This is a bruising place to work," of the RBS. What did you mean by that?
After 7 years of losses, after 7 years of us having all of these conduct and litigation issues, for our people, they have to front up all day, every day, do a marvellous job with customers. But it has been pretty bruising for them. And that's why we want to turn this into a really good place for our staff to work as well.
Final question. You're not going to thank me for this. RBS Six Nations, England v Scotland tomorrow. You're Chief Executive of RBS. Who's going to win?
I think it'll be a bruising game. But I'll give you the answer at the end, Nick. I think Scotland will turn up and really want to play. They had an embarrassing game last time round, losing to Italy, so they'll want to play. England, I suspect, will take them a little bit lightly. England at the end will come over the line and win it.
And that's the RBS Six Nations Calcutta Cup prediction from Ross McEwan, Chief Executive of the RBS. Mr. McEwan, come and see us again in a few months. Good luck to you, and most importantly, good luck to your colleagues, of course, the men and women working with you.
Thank you very much.
Ross McEwan appearing here on LBC, where news is next.
The head of RBS has told LBC there will be a large number of job losses coming at the bank. Ross McEwan refused to confirm speculation 14,000 roles will go, but says the business will be made considerably smaller. But he says not all staff will be out of jobs.
We've got a lot of consultation around the world with our staff, and some of these jobs will go with the businesses as we sell them as well. We've just sold a part of our commercial banking book in the US, and 170 jobs plus 3 sites is going with that business. The new owners want the people, which is fantastic.